welcome to the FitzQ podcast number 5.
Oh my God, we're consistent.
We're consistent 3 weeks in a row. 3 weeks in a row? Yeah, 3 weeks in a row. So yeah, you know, it's 2020. New us. We're getting stuff done. Today we're gonna be talking about hero bands. There's been a little rumor. I don't know if you've heard the rumor, but if you haven't, there's been some leaks, some rumors from a couple different people, and
the pot's been stirring.
Yeah, it's lots of people are talking about it. And in the past, when this many people have been talking about such thing, if I'm thinking about like a Overwatch 2 announcement, and it's probably gonna happen, I would be honestly surprised if it doesn't happen at this point, considering the amount of people that have been talking about it. Mm-hmm. So so that's what we got going on for today. And to get it started, what are your initial thoughts on hero bands? KarQ.
Well, Fitzy, we're just getting right into the thick of things.
We're getting right into it. How was your week?
Bands,
how are you doing?
Oh yeah, let's start with that. You know, my week's been pretty good. I've been playing a little bit of Monster Hunter and just working on some videos.
Okay.
Yeah. What about yourself?
Nothing too crazy, you know. I been making some videos as well. Been trying to be more consistent on YouTube for my own platform, but you know, consistency I think is the word for 2020. That's for me at least.
Trying to grow on YouTube. What about TikTok?
Yeah, TikTok. I'm not. I don't know. I might honestly. I think I might have a lot of fun on TikTok. I'm not gonna lie. So
I've watched a little bit. I've watched a little bit, but I just realized how many more people are on that platform than like Twitch or any other, not even Instagram, to be honest with you. It's the new thing. It's
like producer or creators.
Yeah, I swear there's this girl who went from I wouldn't say a nobody, but she wasn't like an influencer. Do you even call TikTokers influencers? I don't even know. But she went from having no followers. She went from like 0 to 14 million in 2 months. Are you kidding me? 14 million people in 2 months, and then that will explode everything else. You just use that platform and leverage your way onto Instagram, YouTube. It's kind of ridiculous. So I don't know. I've been thinking about just messing around a little bit. You know.
Well, you know what? Maybe I'll venture into it as well, because I'm not gonna lie. I like, you know, maybe it seems like it could be fun, but you know, them youngins are on there, and that's not our place to be. But
we're a little bit behind on the time, so we're not boomers, but we're like in between Zoomer and Boomer. What do you call them?
Us.
Loomers.
Fruit of the loomers. Yes. But yeah, no, maybe I'll venture into TikTok. But yeah, not on my immediate plans for right now. But immediate plans.
Millennials is the word. That's right. But I kind of like Loomers better.
Loomer. What does that even reference?
I don't know. I grew up wearing Fruit of the Loom underwear. Did you? Fruit of the Loom undershirts and underwear.
I think I've at some point maybe. I don't know that I was a staple for my wardrobe.
That was my staple growing up. That wasn't yours? Are you kidding me?
I don't remember, honestly.
Fruit of the Loom? Is it a Canadian brand? No, there's no way.
No, I've seen it.
You've heard of it.
I just don't know if it was like a consistent factor in my life. Mm-hmm. But what I do know is consistent is this podcast.
That is true.
You know what? We're gonna keep on doing it. Let's go.
New year, new me, new year, new us. Anyways,
this week we've got the rumors being stirred, so we're going to talk about it because it's been rumored in the next couple weeks or so something might happen, and that is hero bands. Now, initial thoughts for you on everything about it, just very brief overview. What do you think?
I'm all for it. My initial opinion is yes. But at the same time, I understand the pros and cons. Like you can't please everybody. If everybody was on the same side of agreement, then this would have been implemented earlier, right? There's a lot of push and pull to this, and I've been seeing perspectives on both, but I definitely lean towards yes. hero bans. Now, how are they going to implement it? I'm not sure. I know there's a lot of different systems that other games use. I had this brief discussion on my stream yesterday, and I'm a little bit unfamiliar with other games other than League of Legends, because that's the only game I played that has hero bans.
Right,
I know
right.
you played DotA, and I think it's a different system. I don't know if you've touched Paladins, but apparently they have a system there too that's a little bit different. But for Overwatch, I'm all for it, but I do have that one qualm where people are just going to inevitably ban the same two heroes, one or two heroes every single game, and then we're just going to make a meta game based on that. I think at the highest level in the Overwatch League, there will be a lot more targeted specific bans, but in ranked solo queue, I think it's going to be the same too, and everyone's going to private their profile. So if you're a one trick, you just hide your one trick, unless you're like a well-known, person maybe, or a streamer that plays one specific hero. But for the general population, they're probably just going to private their profile. If they're a Torb one trick, they're going to remain Torb one tricks unless they build a reputation in gold or whatever, wherever they're at. So that's my initial issue with it, but it depends how they implement it. So what are your initial thoughts? And then we'll get into a few more details on different banning styles and what solutions there are to it.
So like you said, I'm all for it. I am all for it. Are there going to be downsides, pros and cons? Absolutely. I think that the pros will outweigh the cons, and it helps. So if we talk about the not to distract from hero bans, but if we talk about the role queue, that was something that I thought would never go in the game. I wasn't pushing it, whatever. I didn't think it should go in the game, but it did. And it wasn't like I was like, this is disaster. It's terrible. This is the end of I'm never going to, like, you figure out how to play with it and you move on. And I think that it has had some pros and cons. Pros being things like, now you can go into a game knowing that you're going to be able to play whatever role you selected. You're going to, for the most part, be able to play one of your heroes that you like. You don't have to worry about who's going to be on healer, who's going to be on tank. There's already that in place. And I mean, for you as a healer, like, that wasn't as big of a deal because you're like, wow, I just hope that there's another healer. I mean, I guess I can solo heal, but I'll get it done. But, there was times where, like, I would be in a game and there was no healers, and I'd be like, well, I guess I'm going to hop on Ana and try to solo heal. And then it sucked because, you're playing a role that you're not super comfortable with, and you're also having to do it alone. So that's kind of worked to stop that fighting from happening at the beginning of the game, and you can go in and not really have to worry about that. Now, the cons being, for me, a con would be that the way that I dealt with double sniper was I would go Hammond and I would ground pound them, and I couldn't get headshot, and it was great. And they took that away from me. So now I'm in this awkward spot where every time I see double sniper, I'm just like, let's go dive. Let's just deal with it. Come on, tanks, please. Just jump on him so I don't have to deal with him, because the heroes that I play aren't, as...
You don't play snipers, right?
Right. I mean, like, I can pull out the occasional Widow, but the people that are like Widow and Hanzo, that's like exclusively what they play, why would I try to go up against that? Like, more often than not, they're just going to dump on me. And that's just because, like, the matchup is very much so a whoever has the better Widow wins. And I dislike the mirror matchups in that regard, which is why I went for, if they've got double sniper, go for Hammond, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that being said, there's pros and cons. I think it's overall been okay. The queue time obviously is a factor, but that was already kind of known before we went into this of a problem that was going to happen. The DPS queue times, that is. So that being said, hero bans, it's going to have its pros and cons. And I think overall will help the game. And I think a big problem of what the game has right now is the fact that the metas get stale. And we've seen that previously with, if we're just looking back at the past, and I think we've talked about this before a little bit, but we had the Moth meta where Mercy had a pretty much 100% pick rate. And then we had Dive meta where it was or I guess Dive was kind of before that or whatever. And
Winston Diva, right?
Yeah. And then there was like Moth Dive with it or whatever, where there's this core group of one, two, or three heroes that are very problematic, or rather picked a large quantity of time. Like Diva had like, what would the World Cup had like a 98% pick rate or something?
Yeah, over 90.
It's like
ridiculous.
Yeah, and you know, we've had the GOATs meta, now we've got the double shield meta. So there's been all these metas, and I think people are okay playing with them and playing against them. You just don't want to do it every single game.
Right.
And that's where the hero bans potentially can disrupt that consistent, every single game you're seeing the same hero, you're playing with the same heroes. If you're not playing those, you're getting yelled at, and it creates this like, at least potentially it's going to create a lot of diversity, or at least a little diversity. And I don't think there needs to be like a ton of diversity. We don't need to see every single hero. Like from 4 games, you're not going to see every single hero, but maybe in like 20 games, you'll eventually see every hero being used well, or like
right.
to combat something. So what do you think? Do you think that the hero bans will help with that? Do you think that we're just going to move on to another meta?
Well, like I said, I really do think a new meta will be born from the same couple of heroes. I wouldn't say the same 2, maybe same 3 or 4 heroes being banned every time, but that does add a little bit more diversity, no matter how you look at it. If there's 4 heroes being cycled as like the regular bans, which I'm assuming if we were to implement them today, it would probably be Orisa, Sigma, Hanzo, and Widow, honestly speaking. You're going to either take away a sniper, or you're going to take away, or May. Okay, let's make it 5. If you vary those, at least you do get, you know, a bit more hero compositions and combinations that you can work with if those are the cases. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. I do think objectively this is a step forward for the game. It's kind of like how you mentioned pre-roll queue, like you'd have to hop on Ana, or you could switch to Hammond if there's a sniper issue. And like, right, obviously that's one of the downsides, but I think you got rid of the whole like quad or 5 DPS problem that occurred. And honestly, I think objectively that is better for the game. Like, I think people are just very jaded and they're very passionate, and they fail to look at the bigger picture. And if we looked at Overwatch 3 years ago versus now, I do think the state of the game is better now. It's just that people, like, you know, when you first play a game, you have that whole like honeymoon phase of the game.
Right.
This game is so much fun. I love it. There's nothing wrong with it. But overall, I feel like any way you slice it, the game is better right now, and hero bans will keep improving the direction of the game. So
right now, a lot of the comments that are kind of like anti-bans or whatnot, people that are being vocal about we don't want hero bans and whatnot. So I kind of want to go through each of these kind of separately.
Sure.
I mean, some of them, you know, kind of work with each other.
Right.
But here's at least my list of things that people have said, and I'm sure there's more. But a lot of the complaints are, what about one tricks? What about streamers? Yep. There's not enough heroes. Yep. It's just going to force the next meta, and then it's going to be the same thing. Targeted bans being, you know, maybe you're not a streamer and you're not a one trick, but like you're really good at Widow, and so they target you. And then, what about hero swapping? I want to play all the heroes. That's the whole point of the game, is to hero swap. So, right. Have you heard those before when you've heard about hero bans or talked about hero bans?
Oh yeah, those always come up all the time.
So for me, I understand where you're coming from.
Exactly.
But I feel like if we're talking about the game as a whole, will hero bans be good for the game as a whole? And you know, there's no way we can really know for sure until we test it, right? We can theory craft all we want, but until it starts happening, until we get out there in the real game or whatever, we're not going to really tell how the bans are going to play out. We don't even know. first of all, we don't know if this is for sure going to happen. This has just been rumored that it's happening in the next couple weeks. Or
what's the track record on rumors right now? Rumored roll queue, it came into the game. Rumored Overwatch 2, it did come out. So honestly speaking, if it's a rumor, it means somebody knows and somebody just couldn't keep their mouth shut. And it looms around, and most rumors are pretty accurate for the most part.
They've been pretty accurate. Yeah. Once again, like I said, once everyone starts talking about it, it seems to just kind of happen. So
right. So I think it is coming to the game. Honestly speaking, I think it's here,
but we don't know when. Don't know when. It could be at the start of Overwatch 2. Maybe they're like, hey, we're just doing this, but it's happening after Overwatch League and going to be at Overwatch 2, which we don't even know when Overwatch 2 is. We don't know. Maybe 2020. Right. We don't know.
Right.
So I kind of just want to go through each one again. So one tricks.
Okay.
I feel like I've seen a lot less.
So have I, to be honest with you.
And I don't know if that's
might be anecdotal based on where we play versus the general population.
Right.
Some people.
I don't know if it's because less people can work around. Because before it's like, okay, if you're on the DPS slots and you're a Junkrat player and they have a Pharah, or you're a Doomfist and they have a Pharah, and you're like, I'm just going to stay this one role, and there were 5 other people that could pick a hit scan to kill him. Now there's only one other person that can pick a hit scan to get. Granted, you can deal with a Pharah in different ways than just a hit scan, but that is the most common. Okay, let's both go hit scan, both the DPS go hit scan, and get them to swap off Pharah and woohoo. So I don't know if that's because of roll queue or if it's because people I don't know. I haven't seen it as much. Granted, I have played a large quantity of Sombra, and I must admit the last few weeks I was 100% Sombra, mainly because I was trying to figure out how to get it to work. Because I can play the Mei and she's meta and whatever, but it was it was a challenge to listen, I know this composition sucks for Sombra, but I'm gonna try, and it was rough. Hanzo is really hard to beat with double shield.
Right.
But that being said, if Sombra were to get banned, I wouldn't just explode. I wouldn't throw this temper tantrum.
Crumble the dust.
Maybe,
Sombra's banned.
It's over. And I think that's where people kind of go with, I'm okay with somebody playing an off meta hero a lot, but I'm not okay with there was a game the other day where someone was playing Hammond and somebody took that person's Hammond and the person literally did not pick a hero because they
really,
they left the game and abandoned the game during a competitive match. We were halfway through the game and it was dude, I know someone picked your hero. Yeah, that's kind of a dick move to pick that person's hero, but at the same time, it's you can't just not pick a hero. Come on, we're in Grandmaster. You can just
they're trying to keep that profile where it's one trick only and there's no other hero played, right? So if somebody locks it in, they just don't even bother. They'll just leave. They'd rather leave the game than have a few minutes on a different hero.
And I think that's to the too far extreme extent. I get it, whatever, but we're in competitive, and it's called competitive for a reason. You can't just be well, sorry, this game isn't worth it to me. Good luck, guys. You just lost. But anyways, so that's kind of how I feel about the whole hero ban with one tricks is, what if my one hero that I can play gets banned? Well, first of all, I don't think hero bans should be in quick play. This is competitive and Overwatch League only.
Yes, competitive only. I think that's what people are forgetting. Not quick play. I know 222 roll lock was implemented in regular quick play, but this hero ban is specifically for competitive. So that only affects a quarter of the Overwatch population. I swear there's so many more people who play this game casually, quick play and arcade only. So
mystery heroes, people keep trying to get me to play mystery heroes. I'm sorry. I don't want to go in there and spam purple Moira orbs and just hack somebody so they can't do anything. That's not for me. But like you said, there's a lot of people that they're I don't know. I just want to vent off some steam and diva bomb somebody and have what the heck's the cooldown on boosters now? Is it infinite?
3.
Can you just no? It's 3, but in Mystery Heroes in a Total Mayhem is what I was thinking of. Sorry, gosh, Total Mayhem.
That's the word. See how often we play it? We don't even know.
I'm thinking of 2 different modes. But anyways, so yeah, exclusive to competitive. And if I don't agree with the argument that like, but I can only play one hero if you are in competitive, because like you can play other modes, whatever, it's competitive. So that's where I stand with that. Streamers, you're streaming. Everyone's going to target you. That's kind of you're putting yourself out there anyways. Like they're already focusing you, they're stream sniping you. They're trying to like the other day I had 2 people that just like a Moira and a Tracer were just hunting me down. Translocator was down, It's dead. They found me. Like they're just coming for me. There's nothing I could do. And yeah, so people are gonna target your heroes. But that feeling when your hero gets banned and then you dominate them with your like second pick, that's good. That's gonna feel good. And you know, like most streamers, they can probably find a second hit pick or a third pick or whatever and do fine.
Right. So who's your go-to? Because you know if you're hitting like top 100 or whatever and you're climbing like crazy, you know you're gonna get your Sombra targeted. So
absolutely.
Yeah. You're prepped for that.
I mean, you know, I play Mei, and I'll have to learn some more heroes. You know, I'm okay with that because if there's, hey, if I get to ban a Hanzo at least every once in a while, I'm good with my Sombra ban gone, because then I don't have to worry about Hanzo. And I'm sure you feel the same way about Doomfist. You know, you're like, don't have to worry about that Doom coming on my backline. I can play Zen now, and you don't have to worry about it. Because there's just those really hard counters. So yeah, I'll figure out some other stuff. Maybe I'll drop some SR for a little bit till I get my other heroes up to speed, because I've been, you know, prioritizing a little too much.
I like that perspective though. I feel like people are just getting upset on like streamers' behalf. Like I feel like most streamers don't mind. I think I know there's some who are against it, but I think a lot of them are for it. And like when people are raising concerns about hero bans, like, well, what about the streamers who main or one trick here? It's like, hey, you don't have to speak for us. I think most of us agree. We'll learn someone else. Maybe the one tricks. Maybe we'll start one tricking a different hero, right? Like a true one trick, like the one that like one on the profile only. And you know the issue where you said like somebody last week just left the game because somebody took their hero and they didn't want any minutes on a different hero. If people notice them, like they recognize the name and they ban, and then they decide not to play, like eventually doesn't that account get suspended?
Oh yeah, it'll get permanently banned.
Yeah, so they can only do it so much. So
right. And I think the people what we're talking about, all these scenarios, are some very select, like it's a fairly low amount of people. They're just very vocal. Very vocal. Like streamers, how many? Even if we say like 300, let's say there's 300 streamers that are big enough that like the people would focus them. You could even say 1,000. Let's say there's 1,000 people that are like big enough streamers that people would target ban them. That's still just like such a small fraction of the player base.
The Overwatch, yeah.
And so,
I've also felt like the people who I guess gained a reputation or got a name for themselves by maining or one tricking a hero, a lot of them don't really do it anymore. I've noticed. I don't know if that's just me, like, but I feel like people that I've known maybe in like season 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 who played a hero, they flex onto a bunch of stuff now. I feel like that the whole streamer one tricking thing kind of died. People main a hero, but they're able to definitely play a lot more than people give them credit for now. Like I'm thinking off the top of my head, I don't want to name any names right now, but I just challenge you, people who are listening or watching right now, think about a couple of one tricks in the past, and then think about right now, do they currently still do it, or do you occasionally see them playing other stuff? And I'm pretty sure most of you can be like, oh yeah, I guess they do play like so and so and so and so, right?
And so and so and so and so.
Yeah, and so and so.
KarQ the Zen one trick now plays
exactly.
Now plays Ana. No. Oh shoot, I lost my train of. What was I gonna say about it? It was about one trick streamers. We'll move on. I'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So another argument being not enough heroes. Now, my challenge when this comes up is, well, first of all, obviously the game was functional at the release of Overwatch, and they've added a lot of tanks and a lot of supports.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're removing, let's say that that's one for each team, so total of 2. If you removed 2 tanks or 2 supports, would the game be playable? Would it break the game? And there's people that are like, oh, what if they ban Orisa and ban Sigma? And it's like, well, yeah, those are meta, so it's not going to break the game. You can't play meta. That's the whole point of hero bans.
Yeah.
So, it's going to change the game. It's going to add diversity to the game, but it's not going to break the functional game. Like, you're still going to be able to run Ryan Zarya, Ball Hog. We've seen more Ball Hog come. I don't know why that composition works.
I don't know why. I think it's the meme.
Yeah. So, you've got the Ryan Zarya, the Ball Hog. You've got Diva Winston. Maybe Diva and Ball or something. Ball. Yeah, there's all these combinations that could be really good that just you don't do them because it's like, well, we can't really go dive because they can just switch to Orisa immediately and we're going to have a really hard time. Or they can switch to a Brigitte and a Reaper. So once one of these heroes get banned, it opens up these other heroes that just like aren't being picked because of these select few that are like, well, we can't really waste our time because that hero is going to shut us down way too hard. So yeah, not enough heroes. I think at this point in the game, it's doable.
I agree.
Again, it's not going to be the meta, or rather, like, the meta won't be able to be picked, but the game is still playable. You're going to have to switch it up. And the cool thing about that is if Orisa and Sigma get banned, and I keep saying Orisa Sigma because they've just been such a dominant pick the past couple months. That's like 4 months or something. And once those 2 are off the table for a game, you have this dive composition, which now opens up maybe Tracer and Genji. So now, like, these heroes that you would never see are starting to be like, well, those synergize well with the tanks. And since they can't run those tanks, and then since the enemy team's running those, now you can do counter heroes like Sombra's really good against dive. And then, I don't know. There's all these other synergies. Maybe like Widow and McCree both got banned. Now you're able to run Pharah. Which it's like, well, do we have a counter? Oh, we can do Ashe. We can do Pharah Mercy ourselves.
Yeah, and that opens the door for Mercy players. And then, like, even the hit scans be like, well, can you pocket me as a Mercy so we can take down the Pharah? Now Mercy's in the game for both sides. And, back to that example with, like, yeah, maybe Tracer Genji or Tracer Sombra or Tracer Doom or something gets played because they're playing Diva Ball or something, for example. And then that would actually lower the chance of you having to run Baptiste, because Baptiste, it's hard to land those grenades across the map. So then maybe you start playing Ana to heal across, or maybe a Mercy to fly with them. Ana Mercy again with dive. That was a thing for a little bit. So I see where you're going with specific bans. Even Orisa Sigma does open the door, like, as a cascading effect or snowballing effect or whatever you kind of call it, because with a different tank lineup, everything else changes.
Right.
With that.
Right.
And
that goes for any hero, and well, we'll get to it in a second. So the next meta, or rather, like, the argument that, well, we've currently got, our 6 or 7 or 8 heroes, and by hero bans, that's just going to force the next meta. So depending on how they do it, depending on how they do the bans, people are saying, like, oh, Orisa and Sigma are going to be banned, and that's, they're not going to get banned 100% of the time. Depending on how they do it. I mean, if it's majority vote and whatnot, at some point, people are going to be like, I am tired. Let's say the next meta.
Tired of Hanzo.
Right. So let's say the next meta is dive. Let's just whatever. So that's the Winston Diva or the Diva Ball or Winston Ball, whatever it is. At some point, people are going to be like, I am tired of playing against Winston Diva. I'm tired of playing against Winston Ball. And then suddenly they're banning those so you can play Orisa Sigma. Now, and again, I think that people are okay with playing against the current meta. It's just the stale factor of wanting to not play against the exact same thing every game. So it'll kind of go in this cycle of like, this is getting played too much. Okay, I'm tired of that. Let's ban that. This is getting played too much. Let's go back. And so it'll create, this is a couple different scenarios that adds a little bit of diversity.
Yep. Banning Baptiste. Banning one single healer, the big chunky healer, would be like, okay, well, if we played Orisa Sigma without a BAP, then,
maybe Moira healing's not enough. Right now.
And then maybe we have to switch to Dive or Reinzar and go back to Anna and try a different comp because the immortality and all that thing is gone. But now, before we move into the next concern or argument, I don't know if this will lead into any of the ones you listed, but how they implement bans will actually affect this as well. So you said if it's one per side and then two get banned, and they're both tanks, then yes, these things can happen. But what do you think about the idea of banning one for each category? So it's one tank, one DPS, one support. Now, I don't think this is going to happen, but hypothetically speaking.
I'm against that.
Why?
I think it'll take too long to, first of all, to like, what is the banning phase going to look like? Where it's like, all right, ban your tank. And then everyone picks a tank and then it picks it. And they're like, it's just going to be a lot of time of like spending a lot of time banning for an 8-minute game on Koth. Whereas
well,
like
how they implement it.
Right. And I don't think that it needs to be now, maybe if they evolve this later after it's like, okay, bans are kind of working, let's say we get up to like 3 for each team. Obviously if there's like the current tank lineup and we're like 3 for each team and each team, like, or rather 3 total bans for each team, where it's like 1 of each instead of 3.
Oh, it's like
total.
6 bans total. That's too much, I think. Yeah. But what if it was just 3 between both teams? Both teams pick a category, and then everybody in the entire game votes for one in the DPS because that's the most. I don't know. I'm just throwing random ideas out there.
Right. Again, I don't know that 1 of each role, or if we're saying 1 of each role total, maybe that's fine.
Right.
If we're saying 1 of each role total for each team, so like one team gets 3, the other team gets 3, I think we're getting a little too much. And I think the problem lies if you do 1 of each shared, that that teams will feel gypped because they're like, oh, what if there's like 3 or whatever, 6 of us on one side vote for this tank and the other team votes for a different tank, which one does it pick? And when it picks the other team, you're going to feel like, wow, we just lost at 50-50. Where obviously both teams can't run it, but let's say you've got the Widowmaker player. And so you ban Tracer because they have a Tracer player, and then the other team bans a Widowmaker because you have a Widowmaker player, and then it picks one or the other, you're going to feel like you've lost because the system randomly picked one. If it's like an even vote, right?
Oh yeah, so it's
like each team picks 6 and 6. Yeah, I think that'll be a little too much. Whereas if it's like 2 total and each team gets to pick one ban or like has a selection of their ban, it'll feel more like, okay, our team contributed to that decision. Granted, and again, this is it's how it gets implemented, and they're gonna probably iterate on it. I mean, we've seen iterations on how competitive worked, where it was like, well, both teams push to the end. Let's coin flip. Who gets to defend? Oh, okay. Like that was really bad. I was
coin flip.
You would get to the end with 0 seconds, and the other team would get to the end with 5 minutes, and you would be back on even terms. Like that felt really bad.
But like RNG elements to banning aren't like a fairy tale. They actually exist in games. Don't they have an RNG element in Dota? I don't play Dota.
So
do they?
So in the pro scene, no, but in Dota there are picks as well. That's the difference between. That's the major difference, is that Overwatch has the ability to switch heroes mid-game.
Yeah.
And they also have items to kind of, let's say one of your counters got one counter got banned. So you're like, okay, let's say all of the DPS, or not all of the DPS, let's say all of the hit scan, if there was a way to ban all of them all, Pharaoh would be so dominant just because there's no hit scan. Whereas in Dota, there's like the ability to buy items to kind of counter that and counter the hero with items. Not that really says what you're going against, but it does have the RNG factor, and I think you can have RNG factor within your team, being that the method that I'm saying is, let's say we have 6 people on our team. Start of the game, you have like 10 seconds. Each person picks a hero to ban. You're like, I want to vote for that, vote for that, vote for that. And out of those 6, it's going to randomly select one of those to ban. So let's say 3 people pick a Sigma, 2 people pick Orisa, and 1 person picks Mei. You're going to have a 50% chance for Sigma to be banned, a 33%.
Oh, so each vote has its weighing. It's not always just majority. So even if that one person picks Mei, there's still like a 1 in 6 chance.
Right. And the reason for that being, let's say you're a solo queue player and you're playing on a team with 5 other people, you're never going to have a chance to win if it's majority vote.
Right. I always forget you can still stack in certain places. So yeah, if you're caught with like a 5 stack and you're that one lingering person, then that one lone person, your choice is never going to have any weight to it. So yeah, no, I think that's a better approach to it for sure.
So it gives like the majority of the time, like you're going to have more person who's like, this hero is super dominant. Like during Moth meta, obviously the Mercy one trick's not going to ban Mercy. So 5 out of 6 times it's going to pick to ban Mercy if those 5 people are picking Mercy. But that one time where they're like, I want to ban Hanzo or whatever you hate as a Mercy player. And so then you get to play Mercy at least eventually.
At least you do get to play her, right? So like those are the people who don't want hero bans at first. If they think like their hero will be banned every single time if it's meta, then they'll be upset. So I do like that. I think that's actually a much better.
And again, it allows you to. You're not going to be able to play your hero every game, but you're also going to have an opportunity to play your hero at some point. The odds of if your hero is getting banned that much, there's probably a reason for it, and there's probably a problem going on. So that's where the devs can be like, wow, this hero is getting banned 90% of the time. We should probably adjust this. So yeah, that and you know, if I start a game and I'm playing against 6 people, there's gonna be people that are picking Sombra to ban. Is my team gonna ban Sombra? Probably not. So now I've got like the hopes that one person on the enemy team's not going to pick Sombra. And the odds of 100% of the enemy team trying to ban Sombra, target ban, is low enough that it'll eventually get through. There's going to be eventually somebody on the other team that's like, oh, they've got Fitzy and they've got
KarQ, BANS Baptiste.
BANS Baptiste. So at some point, you know, you'll get your hero through and you'll get to play them. And whatever that percentage is, I don't know. And if you're really that dominant on a hero, then like, you know, maybe you got to pick another hero and start ramping that one up and get it up there.
Right.
So that's a touching on targeted bans.
I think that's probably the best suggestion. I mean, what other implementation method could there be to give everybody like a chance or a voice or some sort of weight to it?
Yeah, giving everybody
I do like
a
the weighted
chance.
vote. That's really good, actually, the more I think about it.
Well, and you still have like, again, a majority of the time, if a majority of that hero is being picked, it will ban that hero. But it can still slip through and can still be played at some point if someone is that passionate about it, to let the hero get through the ban system. But what other system could get through could be, I know there's been people talking like, well, the highest SR person could be the captain and they get to pick. And then there's it could be completely random. You start a lobby and it's like Bastion's banned and whatever's banned. Like it just picks 2 randomly. So like, I don't, that's way too random. Then there's like, you could have 6 people vote for who you want to, or it could like randomly select someone to be able to pick who to ban or something. So you could start and you have like a 1 in 6 chance to be able to pick who you want to ban and like have 100% factor of getting that ban that game. So like again, there's different ways that it can be implemented, and it can be. But the thing is that it can be iterated on to make it feel more fair or feel like everyone has a chance. And if you really like want to make sure your bans happen, you can 6-stack up to, what is it, Masters or Diamond? Whatever. I don't remember what the cutoff is. I think it's Diamond. Is it Diamond?
I think it's Masters.
It might be GM.
Yeah, all the way up till GM. I think GM is on DOQ. Yeah.
So like you can 6-stack with people and make sure that you get to pick the ban you want, and everyone votes for the same one, so it's like 100% sure on what you're getting.
Then that would encourage you to play more with people. It's a social game. Isn't that like the vision Overwatch had? Is just like being able to play with your friends. They just kind of had to please the 1% of players in GM who only complain about stacking. That's fine.
Well, the 6 stacks against the 1 single stacks and it was annoying at times.
The 1% of players for sure. But the majority of people and like for the majority of people, they can just again stack and make sure you get a certain hero and ban a certain hero. And if you're really opposed to it, then I feel like maybe competitive isn't for you. Maybe like people can definitely still enjoy the game playing quick play arcade. Custom games is a big community for that,
Absolutely. Another, not really, I guess this is more of a not really an argument, but a reason for going for it is that we've seen it before where right now, how do you feel about Reaper?
He's not as bad right now, just because there's less Lucios, and
you don't feel like he's super dominant right now. Like he shows up and you're like, he shows up in a game. He's kind of annoying sometimes, but for the most part,
he was a lot more annoying when it was Lucio Moira, because the Lucio could just speed him up and get in there, give him a little bit of healing amp, and then with Baptiste, like if the Reaper's in past the shields trying to shoot, like Baptiste cannot heal other than the fact that maybe he'll throw an immortality field. But if you throw the lamp like that, that's kind of crazy, unless he's like alting or whatever.
Right.
But the back then Moira could just, let's just throw a healing orb down there, and then like if it bounces roughly in there while he's taking damage and life stealing back, it's like it's
pretty hard to kill.
Go through.
So
he is pretty hard to kill.
He is, of what I've heard, extremely dominant in lower SRs. Like people are still calling. We got the most recent patch and people are like, what? They didn't nerf Reapers? What's going on? This is terrible. And so depending on whatever SR you're at, these bans can like work towards what you want to ban because they're so oppressive there.
Favors or the bans will, exactly, at different elos and even different platforms. I heard Pharah still dominates in console because it's harder to aim with hit scans to take them out.
Right. And so you can go into a game, be like, man, I really don't want to play against this hero. It gets banned, and you're just like immediately, I don't have to play against a Reaper the whole game? You mean I could just like not have to worry about them as they teleport silently behind me and one-shot me? And different, I'm trying to think of during Dive, like Dive was not super dominant at lower SRs, but for the higher SRs, it was fun to play, cool. It's still probably my favorite thing, but there were definitely times where I was like, I want to get rid of Diva. I am tired of hearing time to raise my APM and eating my blizzards.
Happy Halloween.
All that stuff. I'm done with it. I don't want to see her face. Whereas the other SRs, like they don't really care. It shows up every once in a while, whatever.
Yeah.
So different SRs can have different reasons for why they want to give bans. And the pro scene, we haven't really talked about that at all here. Can be done.
Widowmaker's gone. Widowmaker's gone for sure. I think Widowmaker is #1 ban in professional play by far.
And that is interesting. With the way that they have like larger rosters than 6 players, where if they're gonna pick somebody to play for a map, and it's like, oh look, here comes Ameng. I wonder what he's gonna play on this map. And then you ban Hammond, and then suddenly it's like, okay, he's not as scary anymore. Now they have to learn a couple other heroes. And this kind of goes back to the targeted bans. But something that happened in DotA, and I'm sure this happens in like any game, is that there are the targeted bans. So much so that there was one player in DotA where there's like 5 or 6, I don't even know what the total bans is now, but there were 5 or 6 bans where the other team literally banned this player's entire roster because he was that good at what he did. Where they would like, well, you can't let him pick that round 1 because that guy's gonna pick it. And then the round 2, they'd ban the next hero. And then they'd ban the next, and then they'd pick one so he couldn't choose that one.
Whoa.
So like, and the player just had to keep on learning the next hero and get so good at it was like the offlane role. That he was so scary that they had to work around it or else they lost. And people, when that one hero got through, because people are like, it's just that hero. We don't have to worry about it. We'll be fine. We know how to deal with it. And then it gets through and they pick it and then dominate. And, it's like, could have banned it, but you chose not to.
That's the ultimate respect.
Really?
Yeah, imagine being that good that they have to just target you the entire... It's a compliment. Low key, it's a compliment. If
people absolutely.
Are banning, like your
absolutely.
Sombra, and then they decide to ban like your Mei. You're like, all right.
Here's the Widow, and then you lose to it.
Take it easy, guys. Gotta pull out the Fitzy Widow. I've seen it before.
It's not that great, but sometimes. But that also makes for like, I think that makes for entertaining and fun watchability too, if we're talking Overwatch League, and even streams too. Like if they respect ban or they don't get the Sombra, like the Sombra gets through, and then you're like, oh, Fitz is gonna play the Sombra this game, and they're like hyping up because they're gonna get to play their signature hero or whatever. And in the same in Overwatch League where, like you said, Widow, but the one time they don't ban a Widow, and all of a sudden this guy's been sneakily practicing this Widow that you don't know about, and he pulls it out. And you're not ready for it, and he dominates on it.
Mm-hmm.
Could be good.
You start valuing versatility and hero pools, right? And that's one of the big things of being a professional player, I think, is adaptability. Whatever.
Same thing.
Same thing. Just being able to adjust mid game is probably what's going to separate certain players from staying, or just being able to adjust, right? So
yeah. Well, and if we look at like previous metas and whatnot, there's at some point we've all done it, or I would think a lot. Well, I guess not everybody, but even if you've climbed through the ranks on a specific hero, once you've hit that rank, like some people, okay, let's say BAP for this meta, right? There's people that have picked BAP, and they skyrocketed from Diamond all the way up to GM because they were like almost one-tricking BAP because he was super strong. Same thing for a lot of heroes that just become meta. One person just gets really good at that hero at the same time as them becoming very strong. They climb the ranks, and then they're able to kind of stay there because they've now learned how to play at that level with different heroes, because once that hero gets nerfed, you're either going back down or you're going to figure out how to play well enough to survive. And so that's being able to adapt, as much as we were saying about in Overwatch League, but on the ladder as well, across multiple seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you have anything else for hero bans? I think I talked about most of the stuff that I wanted to talk about.
I have like a little notepad of
I got a notepad right here. It's got a notepad right here.
People have been suggesting. Is that everything off the list? Everything's checked off that you
I talked through them. Yeah, I had my little list. I wanted to talk through. Yeah. But is there anything else on hero bans that you want to address or concerns?
No, I think we covered it all. We talked about potential ways to implement it. What's the best system? Who would get banned? What the meta would be. Changing it at every rank. Pros and cons. And how we're both pretty much for it. I think it'll be a nice shift in gears. I think people are just always hesitant for change.
Absolutely.
People realize it's just not as bad. I still remember when YouTube changed like their layout millions of times. Everyone's always like, oh no. And then when Twitch changed their layout at the beginning, like 2 months ago, everyone's like, oh my God, change it back. But now people are like,
hey, change is scary. It's
change
nice,
is scary,
nice to get comfy, get into what you know. Once you start changing, hey, I'm trying to find buttons. And you're like, well, if it was on the old system, I could find it. But yeah, I think, one thing I didn't talk about, I knew it. The balance cycles. So with there being slower balance cycles, and we're about to talk about the next balance patch that just came to live, which went to live very quickly.
Way faster than anybody anticipated.
Right. With the balance cycles and how long it takes for Blizzard to decide to make a change on something, I think this gives a power to the players to at least feel like they have like the ability to change the game or like balance the game by banning things. Where again, Moth meta, how long did that last? It was like 8 months that really Mercy had like 10 nerfs where she was just that good. She was that good when with the rework that she was used for like 8 months. And all of that would have been, okay, Mercy's OP. We've established that. Blizzard is taking too long to decide to nerf it to the ground because it's way too strong. Let's keep banning it because it's way too strong. And that will tell Blizzard like, hey, look, this hero is getting banned. We need to do something about it. And again, at some point, if we're talking about then, Mercy ban, you're playing against this other meta in a world where Mercy doesn't exist. At some point, that would have been annoying enough that people would be like, let's ban some of that. And Mercy slips through the cracks. And all of a sudden, it's like, Mercy 100% pick rate. And you realize that like, wow, no, she's still like way too strong. So I think that would help players be like, okay, we're not helpless because we can at least have a chance to not deal with that for a little bit. And so, yeah, that's where I see with just one other point of giving players a feeling of we're not completely reliant on the developers to change everything for us because we can make deciding factors.
Puts more power of control back in our hands to some extent. And I mean, hopefully these like you said earlier, if certain heroes are being banned every time, it raises eyebrows a lot quicker. Maybe there's less. Obviously, statistics may be like, well, they still have a 50% win rate. Oh, they're banned every game, but they only have a 48% win rate. Why are they still being banned every game? It's like you can investigate it a little bit more, have more data to work with, right?
Yep.
Besides just raw win rates, now you get ban rates as well. Two statistical factors. There's probably a lot more, but just two general ones like that can always help.
Well, cool. You want to talk about the patch we're playing on right now?
So what were the changes in this recent patch? This is patch 1.44, right? We talked about it last week on the PTR and it went live immediately. The only thing that did get changed from the patch notes, I believe, from PTR, to live was the Doomfist uppercut, the self-stun thing.
Oh, right.
It was reduced from 0.5 to 0.35 to live. And I think it's fine. I think most people who play Doomfist, who tried it out, were like, oh yeah, it's a minor nerf. It's not too bad, but it's serviceable, right? At least after you uppercut, you can immediately, or not immediately, there's a slight delay before you can shoot and do anything else, but it's not too bad. Didn't affect the punch. Doesn't affect the seismic, just only that uppercut portion. So you can still do those crazy diagonal rocket punch. Yep.
I watched that video. Gotta know where they're gonna go so I can hack them.
Yep.
Doomfist. He is an interesting hero.
Oh yeah, and the maid change. I remember last week on the podcast we did say that like we don't think the change is enough, but I have noticed it's actually that was just my first impression without playing against it. Now that I played against it last week and this week, I have noticed that freeze is significantly less. I've been able to escape
a lot easier.
Blizzard
Oh yeah,
a lot more often than previously. I actually escaped it like 3 times. Yes, 3 whole times. But that's 3 is still better than 0 because like I never was able to escape it in the past without a Lucio speed boost or whatever. If I'm caught anywhere near the center without some sort of mobility, movement, or anything, I'm just dead no matter what. But I've been able to get around LOS and corners, and I've heard ball players in the previous May iteration, like it would actually just be permanently frozen. There's 0 escaping. Even if you grapple and try to fireball out, like you're always dead no matter what. But they're actually able to get out now if they maneuver correctly. So it's not so much of a hard counter, but a soft counter.
And I think we talked about that last week where...
Did we?
Yeah, because the slow time of only being the 1 second and the 1.5, that you can get enough momentum to get away.
That, yeah.
So the May change you think is enough, or do you still think she needs a nerf of some sort?
I still think multi-freeze is kind of dumb. I remember playing a game just yesterday. I wasn't playing May, but I felt like we were screwed because the enemy team was running like a Lucio BAP and they were like rolling into us, but the May managed to just stand on just the right side while they're coming in, just wall to kind of slow them down, so they kind of just like kind of tumbled into the wall, so they all kind of grouped up and just put her freeze hose down. It's like, I'm freezing, I'm helping. Like they don't waste any time icicling, they just hold the button down. They turn, oh, ice block, don't look at me.
No.
Oh, now they turn back around because enemy team is back and then your team starts like following up. Oh, unfreeze or unice block and just freeze them all again. It's just ridiculous.
What was your tank lineup?
We were playing Orisa Sigma, I think.
Sigma, okay.
They were playing the Ryan Orisa, I believe, and they're trying to barrel in with Bap Lucio, and then we just, I don't know, the May kind of just held her button down, and then Ryan can't swing anymore. He's literally forced to put his shield up.
Right.
And Orisa's forced to gold immediately, so she doesn't get frozen. Everybody else on the team.
So the thing with May is that as much, and I'll be somewhat biased because I do play a fair amount of May. Is that, like, she's never done amazing against the off tanks. She's been more of like the main tank bully of freezing the Reinhardt, freezing the Sigma, freezing the Winston, whatever, because they don't do a ton of damage and you can like wall them off or consistently get it. So part of me wonders if she's strong, because I mean she's still strong, absolutely, due to the tank lineup being main tanks most of the time. And whether, because like Zarya bubbles can destroy her, because you're like, I'm gonna freeze this person, bubble, and they just walk away. Oh, they're frozen in a bubble, they just walk away. Same, like, so you can't target really anybody unless you know that the bubble is down, and then you can't really target Zarya unless you know the bubble's down. But yeah, I do think she could potentially still use a little bit of a nerf on maybe the AoE freeze still. The timing,
diminishing returns.
Yeah. I think it could still be there, because it's really annoying when like people are just like walking in and out of each other and like body blocking the May freeze. Because especially now with having like, if they completely removed it and kept it at 1 second, like it's so hard to get people froze if there's like 2 people anywhere near each other, because they keep just tanking for the other person and nobody ever gets frozen.
Right.
But yeah, I think we still need a little more time to see if, we're seeing her a lot less. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen her a lot less, but I've seen her a lot less. So that's good. And I don't think a change necessarily ever needs to completely kill a hero. It just needs to make it more manageable. And same thing with BAP. We're still seeing lots of BAP, but do you think the nerf was enough? As a BAP
I could
player?
definitely feel it. When I first played on the new patch, and if you guys don't know, I play a lot of BAP, play support. I definitely was like, it's no big deal. Like, still feels really, really strong. But the more I played it, the more I do definitely feel the immortality field nerf. Not so much the ultimate 20% nerf to the window is still not enough in my opinion. Or like, I feel like I'm still building it really, really fast. Not as fast as the past, but still enough that I'm getting it multiple times around, which is plenty compared to other heroes. Like before, I was actually able to build BAP ults in 10 to 15 seconds. So it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the nerf to the immortality field, the fact that I have to hold on to it a lot more, that actually nerfed the ult build-up rate way more than the raw 20% nerf to the build-up rate. Because earlier, pre-nerf, I would just put the lamp down early and then just let my team take the damage, and then I would just shoot the ground, 20 times and then have my window ready. But now that I have to think about what I have the lamp now, and it's not up all the time. I think the overall app alt usage is actually down significantly. I'm using it I still use it multiple times around, don't get me wrong, but it's definitely like an ultimate two to three times less per round, and lamp has to be used a lot more conservatively. So overall, pretty good nerfs. The DPS is still a little high, and I think it's still kind of easy to shoot the ground to get healing value, but he's close to being fine.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can still heal too many people too much is what's gimping, Ana as well. Like why try to take a risk in shooting a shot for a single target heal that can't go through shields and versus just shooting the ground and pretty much guaranteeing it. At least with the current tank lineup when they're just stationary and in front of you. So
why do you need to sleep the Nano Genji when you can just throw a field on the ground?
Yeah. Like why risk all the skill shots in Ana, sleep dart, and shooting your team when you can just shoot the ground or throw a lamp on the ground, right?
So coming from the DPS perspective, or rather more specifically the Somber's perspective, I've noticed a lot more often that I'm able to really pressure Bat because he doesn't just throw the lamp down. Like I'll come up, I just shoot him point blank range, and you either need to get me low enough that I have to leave, or I've had people hold on to their lamp till they're like 20 health. Like typically you'd be like, I get to 50, chuck it on the ground, whatever. But now it's like they hold on to it knowing how valuable it is.
Exactly. So, I specifically remember playing against you.
Maybe
like a few days ago. I think it was Havana. I saw you unstealth shooting me. I'm like, oh, I can't lamp, please. I know you're gonna EMP after, or like the enemy team is gonna follow up with a sig ult because they're waiting for you. They probably called to you to force the lamp out or something. And I was like, don't do it. I had to do it. I pressed it, and then you won the fight after. So from the DPS perspective, I'm sure it's now a lot more
saying
manageable.
That the lamp is down is like has weight to it. You're like, all right, they used lamp, even though it's only that 5 seconds. It's the 5 seconds total, or rather the 5 second cooldown or whatever. It definitely has that extra weight to it. Diva boosters. What do you think? I've seen some divas.
I've seen a lot more divas. I think people are just trying it out and experimenting. I still think it loses heavily to double shield, and AoE heal is too powerful. Like for diva to do anything significant, relative damage wise, at least, unless someone's completely caught out of position and they're isolated, then diva is really good. She's definitely okay on maps with a lot of vertical mobility. You can get around and be very disruptive, but I feel like if you're going to do that, you might as well just do it with ball, because I think ball's better at disruption. So you either commit to just having one tank do it, and then you run the Orisa as a secondary, and you might as well just do that with ball versus trying to run Orisa Diva or something.
Right.
Or you just full commit to Diva ball, but then you have to change your entire comp with that. And I think people are still a little bit too hesitant to try that.
Hey, hero bands. Just check those in there. Yeah, I've seen a little bit, but it hasn't been as bad as I thought. Now I just get to hack her and make her know that she's losing tons of cooldowns instead. And so, it's great. But yeah, especially with new Bonnie being in the map pool, because that's a notorious dive, vertical mobility necessity map. So seen her a little bit there, but nothing like, wow, these divas are running rampant. So Winston, on the other hand, not that he's had any changes. I feel like I've seen him more often. And people, I've seen him create chaos against my team, that my team's like, what do we do? The Winston's running all over us. And it's like, get a Brig? Can we get a Brig? Brig's pretty good.
Brig is good. Brig was made to deal with
Right. So
instead of just playing in goats and face tanking everything, she's made to peel now with the whip shot. Yep. She's made to stun and disrupt and get the inspire up, armor pack people who they're jumping. Get a Brig. Brig's pretty good in that regard. All right.
You play Brig? Sometimes
I do. I flex into it. I always have this rule of thumb. People ask me, when do you switch to Brig? Well, I always think BAP is kind of standard for every healer, but the secondary support, you can switch to Brig instead of Zenyatta. Because if you play Zen against like Dive, then
you're struggling.
You might. You'll probably struggle. The reason why Zen came back is because the Zen is only meta if both teams run the static Orisa Sigma and like there's no flankers. But if there's divers and flankers, like you switch to Brig when again, my rule of thumb, was if they have 2 out of the 5 or 6 dive heroes, I'll switch to Brig. If they have 1, sometimes you can get away and deal with it as Zenyatta. But if they have 2 of either Diva, Winston, Ball, Doomfist, Tracer, Genji, even Reaper, so that's 7. If they have 2 out of 7 of those, I'll probably switch to it. And I feel like they're focusing me.
That's kind of my rule of thumb with like Hanzo, McCree, Hog, Torb, Brig. If they have like 2 of those and they have a Zen, I can manage to create enough pressure on Zen. If it's 2 of those and it's double shield and they don't have a Zen, I'm usually switching.
Like, switch, yeah.
Because there's nothing to do. It's like I can't pressure anybody. Everyone's just like, aha, there's a Sombra, get out of here. I don't need to worry about you. But it's good to have those rule of thumbs of like, this is my limit. Time to switch.
Yep.
Okay, Orisa Fortify. How are we feeling about this? I actually felt this a little bit. I've actually noticed it.
I didn't think it was a big deal, but yeah.
50% to 40%
last week. Exactly. First impression last week was like, but now we play against it. It's noticeable. It's noticeable.
Yeah. She's dying a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe could use him a little more. Maybe. I don't know.
I think if we nerf her halt range, she might be okay now to deal
halt range. Yeah. We talked.
Or cooldown.
Yeah.
Halt range or the cooldown. Probably the range though. The range is
it's a little far.
It's really far.
Especially when it latches on and you walk out of it, and then it brings it. You're like, yeah. All right. So yeah, I felt that a little bit. Hanzo, I have no idea. I've heard some people say it's, oh my god, Hanzo's so hard, and then other people are like, it's so good, and it's like, what? How is it that both? But I have no idea.
Yep. I think majority say it's almost the same. Storm Arrow is still the same, right? Sonic is still powerful. Still got the leap. Still got the mobility. Still got the good drag into zone and or damage with halt. Or combo with halt, sorry. So it's just the adjustment on the regular primary fire. So
cool.
No idea.
Other thing, of course, being Doomfist we talked about earlier, but other than that, the patch, it went to live pretty quickly. It was like a week, right? Over 2 weeks or something? Was it even 2 weeks?
Well, I don't even think it was 2 weeks.
I don't think it was even 2 weeks. There's been a few bugs here and there, but they have the ability to hotfix, so they've hotfixed some of the stuff, I think. The reason why I say that is because if you check your replays, it'll keep on like, I go back in and I only have like 3 replays. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've played 10 games because once the new patch happens, it removes your replays.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But anyways, I think the patch overall, right direction, like we said, feels good. The BAP thing is the biggest deal to me. I think it's the biggest deal to a lot of people. It just affects the meta so much and affects the game so much. And I think it's in the right direction. It makes him feel like you have to hold on to it more often and value it more. Kind of like res, where you can't just go up and res somebody. Now you have to like think
about it.
Should I do that? Is it worth it? But yeah, I think the hero bans, I'm excited for that. Hopefully it'll happen within the next couple of weeks, or at least get talking about it or get some more information on it. Don't think it'll happen for Overwatch League Stage 1 for sure, but maybe Stage 2.
Right.
That'll be interesting.
So. They'll do it for stages. I think Hanzo, beginning of last Season 2 Stage 1, was old Hanzo. No Storm Arrow, no Leap. And then live servers, the new Hanzo was out. But Overwatch League, they're playing old Hanzo. And then the next stage, they finally implemented it.
Which new Hanzo are you talking about? New Hanzo happened in like 2018.
Was it 2018?
It was March of 2018. It was like that first year.
That's what I meant. Season 1, Stage 1.
Okay.
I remember live servers, it was new Hanzo, and then Overwatch League was old Hanzo. So I think they're trying to avoid that again, where they play on a completely like.
Well, and Moth Meta was happening for another like 2 months after live had changed, and it was like, I'm not gonna watch Overwatch League. They're just running around with mercies, and we don't have that.
Yeah, I think they learned from their lesson, or at least I hope they did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's wrap this thing up. 3 weeks in a row, and let's make it 4 next week.
Right. So, everybody, thank you for tuning in to the FitzQ podcast. If you've been watching this stream on Twitch, on twitch.tv/fitzyhere, thank you for being here. And of course, if you probably tuned in and out, or you don't own the Twitch app or follow us on Twitch, you can follow us on Spotify, Google Podcast, Anchor, and a bunch of other podcast platforms. That's right. So, that being said, I'm KarQ.
I'm Fitzy.
And we'll see you later.